Hello and welcome to CLEA'S World. I am Clea, and today I would like to share with you more of the information I've received from the 25th dimension during my last BQH Hypnosis session. I'll be reading from a transcript of a section of the session, and when I refer to Lorrayne, I'm speaking of my practitioner who's asking me questions I prepared in advance of the session. And when I refer to me, I'm speaking of myself under hypnosis, which means that the answers are coming from the 25th dimension. Before I start reading, I would like to thank you as always for subscribing, liking, and commenting on this video, even if it's just to say hi. I love when I have some interaction with you guys because sometimes it feels like I'm just here on the side of the screen and I don't know what's happening out there. So we'd love to hear what's going on in your corner of the world. All right, I'm going to start reading here. Lorrayne, okay, how come so many become spiritual or even start channeling after going to places like Egypt? There are no past lives, and the higher self can use anything to get a message across. What is the connection with Egypt that makes it acceptable for people to use as a trigger for awakening? Is it a feeling of mystery or the presence of an energy vortex near the pyramids? Me. So Egypt was a place that existed before this last reset. In fact, 2 resets ago. So it was 3 resets ago, we should say. So there have been 2 resets since Egypt. So the vibration was much higher than what we have now. Now, we already know there is no past. So ancient Egypt is not really ancient. That's how we experience it in historical terms, in terms of when we first had that experience. But Egypt is real right now. So we know the vibration never goes away for that reason. So there are areas on the planet, we said this before, where you have certain types of energy because we believe that there are certain types of energy where we are capable or we allow ourselves to come into contact or to connect. Now, we've already said, we're always all connected. Doesn't matter how you act at this level, you're always connected. Because again, this is acting, this is all it is. An actor is not disconnected from who he is just because he's playing a role. And so in that sense, for many of us, because of what we know from a conscious perspective, as you know, in history, what we consider history, Egypt has this very mysterious air, very mysterious history, very fascinating in many ways. But also because at an energetic level, because people do expect to have that experience, a lot of people allow themselves to say or to experience their connection by saying, oh, I went to Egypt and this happened. Almost as if it's a logical thing to happen or a logical conclusion or a logical consequence of going to Egypt. Somebody might go to Egypt and come back even more of an atheist than he was before. And we're laughing here. You see, at the end of the day, it's always the essence that decides. But so yes, this has been very much a popular choice for opening up to being more spiritual or becoming more spiritual by saying, I went to Egypt, or I went to Mount Shasta, or I went to, for example, in Australia, there is I think it's called Table Mountain, it's what it's called. There is a mountain that's considered sacred. And therefore, people, when you expect something to be sacred, of course, you will have a sacred experience from it, generally speaking. We've spoken about this. Everything is a code and everything is based on your expectation. So many people will have plant medicine experiences where they expect that a certain plant will give a certain effect. And like clockwork, they will have that effect. It's not the plant that caused it, because there are people that could have that plant and have a completely different experience because it all depends on their expectation. And same with these situations, we go to Egypt, we think, if we believe Egypt is a particularly spiritual place, we will feel more spiritual. We come back and now we have an excuse to start channeling. Lorrayne, thank you. The next question refers to me, Lorrayne, but I will read it in the 3rd person. When Lorrayne asked about her past obsession with crystals, you said that she protected her space many times by having them. Why is that? What could have happened had she not had them, since the essence can choose what it wants to experience? By buying them, she was intending to protect her space, so her intention should have been sufficient. And if you have watched my previous video that dealt with the fact that Lorrayne was talking about her old obsession, with crystals, and we've all gone through a lot of transmutations and evolution, of course, in our thinking and our consciousness, et cetera, et cetera. So of course, Lorrayne has as well. She's done a lot of work. And so she did used to have this obsession with crystals, thinking that they were protecting her. And the 25th, as I explained, what was really happening. And at the same time, during their explanation, they mentioned she protected her space by using these crystals. And I was like, well, it's the essence that protects. It's not the crystal, because I have crystals and I don't think of them as being protected. So it really wouldn't work for me. I wouldn't have the same intention when I buy them. So I wanted to delve a little bit more into this particular topic. And here's the answer from 25th. Me. Yes, absolutely. So what was meant in the question is, and it was a confusion that Clea was having based on the disconnect, or if you want to say it that way, the separation between higher self and conscious awareness. So Clea was thinking that we said Lorrayne protected her space from a higher perspective with crystals. But truly what happened is that what we meant when we said she protected her space many times, or that they, the crystals, protected her, of course, Lorrayne's intention would have been sufficient, but Lorrayne wasn't there yet, just like none of us were there, because we wanted to stay within the matrix, which implies that we need outside triggers. We need outside concrete things to help us. And of course, Lorrayne is now very well aware that that's not the case. Not that there's anything wrong, or there would be anything wrong with Lorrayne going to buy another crystal and saying, this is energy, or I'm imbuing it with my intention for it to do this and that. And that's perfectly fine. We use tools. We use vehicles for our intention all the time. We've said this. So in that sense, though, what was happening is that Lorrayne did use her intention to say, these are protective. And therefore, they did protect her many times, but not because it was the crystals that were protecting her, but because she had set her intention that the crystals would protect her. And she had stuff come that she wanted to be protected from, because she thought that it was not anything that she wanted to deal with. Now, as she from the beginning said, I'm not interested in any low vibrational things happening, or whatever it is. And her essence had been actually, and her higher self had actually been opposed to having any lower vibrational stuff coming in. She wouldn't even have, this would have been a moot point. She wouldn't even have had to deal with anything to be protected from. But because of how we've always wanted to play in this game, and how Lorrayne believed that things worked, of course, this is what happened. Meaning it was her intention to protect herself. And therefore, not only she created the protection, but she also created the things to be protected from. I thought this was so important. I underlined it because we are seriously creative and imaginative. And this is madness, that not only we protect ourselves, but we even create a reason for us to need protection in the first place. I mean, madness. All right, I'm going to keep reading here. You know, a lot of these things just swirl around, right? Because this might have been somebody else's intention, some other essence's intention to hurt Lorrayne. But now Lorrayne knows I'm okay because I have the crystals protecting me. In reality, she's okay. Lorrayne was okay because, of course, her higher self did not want that. But so this is what's happened. So there was a little bit of confusion, again, between what happens behind the scenes at 3D level, as opposed to the information we now have from behind the scenes, which is at a higher self level. And again, the only difference is that we like to believe that things are coming from the outside and we needed to use outside tools to help us, and not that there is anything wrong, even now with this consciousness, to have those tools. Lorrayne, well, and crystals are beautiful, sparkly things to own. She was laughing. Me, they're very high vibration as well. And so, of course, they can make us feel good if we decide that's how we look at them. We expect them to be, you know, we use them for what they're used. So there's nothing wrong with that. They're not just sparkly. I mean, they can actually help you feel good if you think, yeah, they're high vibration, so why not, right? We just said the only thing we always remind you when we speak of codes is that it really just depends on what you expect of them. Like Clea has them around, and she does find them sparkly and beautiful. That's it. That's all. But they're still high vibration. They're high frequency crystals. So it's all good. Lorrayne. So on that note, you mentioned that trees have essence. So do crystals have essences? Me. Yeah, so trees had essences, of course, because the vast majority of trees, almost down to the last one, are gone. The essences are gone now, especially because they were in preparation for the takedown. Of course, there are still some. We don't want to say every last one, but close. So crystals have, okay, they don't have essences in the sense of how we think of humans, how we have essences. We already said there are teams that do come in and incarnate in nature. But when it comes to crystals, they are codes. A tree is not a code. A tree is like a human. We are not a code. Crystals are codes. Crystals are things we created to carry certain frequencies, to unlatch certain knowledge, just like plant medicine, etc., etc. So in that sense, they don't have an essence in the way that you're thinking of an essence. Again, just like a tree or a cat or a person. It doesn't mean obviously, and we know that you don't mean that, it doesn't mean obviously they're inanimate in the sense that we think of inanimate in 3D, meaning that they're just things. Obviously, they have energy. Everything is energy. And again, they're very high frequency. But in that sense, they don't have an essence. There is no essence that has incarnated as a crystal. Lorrayne, thank you. I thought I'd ask me. It's a very good question. Interesting question. Clea is also glad you asked the question. She finds it interesting. And I did. I never thought of even asking that. No, I feel like I got to run a list of things like, does this have an essence? Does that have an essence? Lorrayne. So roses and sage bushes and other living beings. So essentially all what we would call nature, whether fauna or fauna, have had or have essences. Everything else is just a creation of the matrix. Is that correct? Me. Yes, we would only say they can have essences. As you well know, not every living creature has an essence, including humans. Not every human has an essence. Definitely not now. But yes, they normally. There are teams of essences that will incarnate in those forms, yes. Whereas things that are inanimate, that we consider inanimate, like for example, cement or houses, they don't have essences incarnated in them. Lorrayne, thank you. That was my understanding. Just thought I'd check. And thank you for the crystal information. All right. I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it's kind of short and sweet, but that's because with the next video, we're going to go into a new section, and I want to make sure that everything stays nice and separated, which I know helps me organize my thought process in certain areas, and I hope it works for you as well. So thank you for watching this video. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.